Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Wake up.
Press, you've been away from the channel for over 100 days. It's time to stop being a lazy boy and make some video games. The people have waited long enough.
Hello everyone, I know I've kept you waiting, but during these last few months I've been upgrading the setup. You may have noticed in my previous videos that I've been working on 2 GB of RAM and a Dream. However, all that's changed and I really hope you enjoy the climbing quality. So without any further delay, let's jump in.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this.
As you've seen in the title, we're continuing our action-adventure game. We left the project just having given our character an idle animation using Blender. We also figured out how to make a run cycle in Blender. Using a fake user in the action editor, we should have been able to import our run animation into Unity. Here you can see that it's appeared under our character Cat. What I'm going to do is show you how to implement our run animation as our character runs. Remember that we had an animator controller attached to our character? Well, we're going to be using that in a moment, so this is what it looks like in case you forgot. Now Unity no longer supports MonoDevelop, so I'm using Visual Studio. So let's jump over to Visual Studio to see how we can implement this run animation. You should remember that this script allows us to go forward, back, turn left and right. We want to connect what we've done here with the animation controller. To do this, we'll need some parameters. Let's get an idea of what we need to do. We'll make the animation run as soon as the player moves the character forward or backward using the arrow keys. We've already made reference to the animator, and all we need to do is add a little line for the parameter in void update. And that line is anim.setFloat speed math.abs vertical. Let's break it down from the beginning. In the animator, we'll make a float and we'll call it speed. Using mathf.abs, we'll have an absolute value for the speed we'll be measuring. This speed is on the vertical axes, so we'll be getting the absolute value of our character's speed as they move forward and backward through the scene. Let's go back to the game and see what we need to do next. Go over to the animator window for our character and click the plus icon under the parameter tab. Click float and call it speed in the exact same way that we named it in the script. If you haven't already, drag the run animation into the animator just like this and right click on the idle animation. Select make transition and join the arrow to the run animation. Go to conditions and make a new condition using our float speed. When transitioning to the run animation, we want the value of our speed to be greater than 0.1. Now do the reverse of what we just did and set the conditions to less than 0.1. We'll also need to deselect has exit time. Okay, so everything's working without any problems. We've properly implemented our run animation and we're good to go. And that's what I would be saying if we were actually done. In the second half of this tutorial, we're going to get our character to lean a little to the side as they run and turn a corner. Double click your character in the inspector to open their project in Blender in case you closed it, and stay tuned. Our character's motions can be affected in a few ways, whether we script it or animate it. I've chosen the latter for this project as I run into a couple of hiccups with the former. The process is actually quite easy and the solution was found in the way that animations transition over in such a smooth way. The example we have is the near seamless transition from our idle animation to our running animation. You can see it, but you can't see it, and that's the magic we'll be using to our advantage. Before we jump back into our script, let's think through the steps to make this happen. We need to create a couple of animations where our character leans into the direction they'll be running. We need a parameter for each of these tilt animations, which will be used in the transitions between animations. we need a way to interact with the parameter when we make the relative inputs. With our checklist in mind, let's dive in. Double click on your character, open it up in Blender, and let's be efficient with what we do here. We already have a run cycle, so unless we really want to change their look when they whip round a corner, we can just reuse this asset. Now try to remember the basics of creating a new animation. First we go to Dope Sheet, then Action Editor. We then press this plus icon and name our animation. To save our animation when we leave Blender, we need to click on this icon to create a fake user. We then go back to the timeline. What I'll show you here may save you guys a lot of time if, like me, you imported your character facing the wrong direction. Go to Object Mode, select the mesh, and then double tap A to select both the mesh and the bones of the character. Then rotate it all as desired. You'll see the bones following as everything's connected. We also have a keyframe appear in our timeline. Because we haven't made any other movements like this in our animation for our character, the pose should stick. I'll press R and then Y to rotate my character on the Y axis. I'm going for about 20 degrees here. I want them to lean to one side. That's the bulk of this animation sorted. Then go to pose mode where we can fine tune the animation. You'll notice that the foot opposite to the direction your character is leaning isn't touching the ground as it should when it's meant to impact the ground. All we need to do is go to the frame where that leg makes contact with the ground and extend it to match the point where the ground should be dictated by where our foot lands. To doubly make sure that our character hasn't floated off the ground, we can reference our idle animation and match the position of the feet. You'll probably find that everything's okay as we've used our run animation and nothing too crazy should have happened. However, you may find that when you go to your idle animation, it's rotated in the same way that you rotated your run animation to create the tilt animation. In this case, no problem. With the idle animation open, select the same stuff that we selected before and rotate it by the exact amount you rotated the tilt animation. Only you're going the other way around this time. Now you can measure up where the feet are and go back to the tilt animation. Repeat what we just did, only the other way this time to create your second tilt animation. They should look like this. Alright, now that we've got our animations, we need to tell Unity how we want to use them. No secret that we want the animations to play when we turn our character in the middle of a run. I'll illustrate this in the animation controller. You can see where we'd have our transitions. The parameter we'll use is a boolean. That means we'll be using if statements that either measure as true or false. Best thing is for me just to demonstrate it and you guys will get the picture. Alright, back yonder into VS, we'll take it one step at a time. Right tilt first. Under animator anim, we'll make a variable bool called tilt R. In void start, we'll make our variable false. Now we'll use that stuff in void update. Here we're using input.getKeyDown. We're using this as it allows us to reference the specific keys we use to rotate our player. To rotate them right, we're using the D key. So if the D key is down, tilt R becomes true. Then we use getKeyUp to bring it back to false, otherwise we'll only tilt for an instance. We then tell our parameter what to do in these conditions. If it's false, and if it's true, it's true. So if it's true, we lean, and if it's false, we don't lean. On returning to Unity, we might be met with an error that tells us that the parameter we set isn't being used. First, create a new parameter under the class bool. Next, we need to type the name of it exactly as it is in the script. And now, our parameter is ready to be used in the transitions to and from the run tilted animation. To create those transitions, we'll right-click our animation, select transition, and connect the boxes. Do the same in the reverse and you'll have both animations sorted. Here's what your script should look like at the end. And here's what your character should look like as they move. Okay, that's it for today, friends. Thank you for sticking around and believing that I would be back in the midst of one of my big pauses again. I'm going to be back a lot sooner than you'll know. But until then, keep yourselves well and keep at it with your own personal projects. Let me know how these tutorials are helping you in your own projects, because I really get a kick out of that, you know, helping you guys with big parts, small parts in your own projects in Unity, and potentially even Blender if you wanted to take a look at run cycles and stuff. Anyway, this is me signing out on another press any button tutorial. If you would like to stick around, then feel free to subscribe, and if you want to leave any feedback, then the comment section is open. Anyway, thanks and see you soon.